Hey guys, welcome to my Way of the Shadow Monk multiclass guide. I'm uploading this video because I haven't seen this particular build on YouTube yet. I've seen things that try to achieve something similar to what this does, but I honestly think that this is pretty perfect, or at least perfectly nails the mechanics that other builds are trying to take advantage of when they make these kind of builds. And I'm going to first showcase how combat looks with this build, and later I'm going to explain how I level up the character to get this. But I'm going to preface this by saying that I'm using mods to get level 12 and proper equipment just so I could showcase the build at its full potential. Obviously, you would not be able to get the build to function this way this early in the game. So just keep that in mind. This is literally just to show a somewhat difficult battle that I guess I'm highly over leveled for, but in any case, this is just to show the mechanics of the build itself. So the build is comprised, first of all, of Way of the Shadow Monk, of a Rogue Assassin, and of Gloomstalker Ranger. Now, Gloomstalker Ranger allows us to basically have a free attack on the first round of combat. That is the main reason why we're using Gloomstalker. And we will be using this free attack now. And of course, with Assassin Rogue, you get sneak attack, so that's what that just was. That was just now. And I've become invisible, but that's because of my cloak. Ignore that for now. So, I did not surprise them, so I didn't get to exploit this build to its full potential. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go invisible, even though I am invisible, because that's what you would usually do. Then you use Shadow Step to some other area, far enough away from where they saw you going invisible, and you're going to end the turn. They're going to waste their resources and try to come over here to figure where the hell you are, but they won't be able to, because even when they do detect presence, you're going to be far enough away. Now you wait for turn-based mode to come back, enable turn-based mode. You then sneak attack somebody. Because you're assassin, you have high initiative, so you're gonna probably be attacking before anybody else. So again, Gloomstalker attack. And I see that I don't have an extra attack for some reason. I would expect myself to have an extra attack, but if I use an attack now, I'm gonna waste my action. So, oh, but I already went invisible. So I guess all I have to do is, again, I'll Shadow Step somewhere else. I'm gonna end turn. Again, they're gonna try to figure out where I am. And once they won't be able to, they will end combat. That means that, again, I can attack them. Now I have an extra attack. Good. Well, I missed. In any case, that's not a big deal. I just go invisible again with the Way of the Shadow Cloak of Shadows. This only works when you're in an area that is not fully lit. But I haven't encountered yet any place in the game that I would fight enemies in that doesn't have areas that aren't well lit. The only exception so far, or the only exceptions where it was difficult but not impossible to find areas that are not fully lit, are the battle with the gnolls, the tadpole-controlled gnoll at the cave in the beginning of Act 1, and also in the Underdark there is a fight up on the branches of the Susser tree which seems to be very lit in that branch, but there are other areas around that aren't well lit, so if you drag your enemies there, then you would not have any problems. So again, I just became invisible. I'll shadow step away. He'll try to find me, he won't be able to. That ends combat once again. Go back into turn-based mode. Wait, okay, this might be a bit tricky because he wants to go up. And if you go up to that lit area, you're going to reveal yourself. Instead, I'll just walk here. And I'll do it like this. Again, for some reason, I don't have another extra attack. But that's no big deal. Just go invisible again. I'll use Shadow Step to this time teleport next to him. And again, you go invisible. Shadow Step away. Now you could also walk, but why do that if you have a free Misty Step, essentially? And you can use these abilities, the Invisibility and Shadow Step, which is essentially a Misty Step, as many times as you want. There's literally no limit on how many times you could use it per day, which is extremely broken. I'm wondering. Yep, actually, let's put Hunter's Mark on him. Go invisible. This time I'll walk away. Just make sure that you're not gonna be lit anywhere along the way, so this way is pretty good. That way I could also use my bonus action. And before he heals, I'll try to hit him again. Is he surprised? For some reason, I don't know what makes him not be surprised. It's pretty inconsistent. But there you go. I've taken them all out. They were not even able to touch me. That's essentially the idea of this build. And you could do this pretty much anywhere, to any enemy. And even enemies that see invisible, what you could do is you go invisible, then you shadow step far away from them so they don't have any idea where you are. And then they're gonna see invisibility. They're gonna be able to detect your invisible after image, but not where you actually are. Now to the build itself. As for race, you can take whatever race you want. It really doesn't matter. I don't even really have any race that's preferred. Just take whatever you want. As for background, though, I would take Urchin because it gives you sleight of hand and stealth proficiencies, both of which are really good. The reason why I wouldn't take Elf, even though we're going to be using crossbows, is because our first level is going to be in Ranger, and Ranger has martial weapon proficiencies, which includes basically Rangers have proficiencies in all types of weapons, so it doesn't really matter. You don't need to take a specific race for proficiencies in specific types of weapon. And now to the build itself. We're going to take level 1 in Ranger, just to have maximum proficiencies in everything. Favored enemy, if you take Ranger Knight, it's going to give you proficiency in heavy armor, meaning that as you level up, you're going to be able to use whatever the best armor is that you have at any given point. And so I would recommend taking Ranger Knight. You're not really going to gain any other favored enemy because we're stopping Ranger at level 3. So just take Ranger Knight. I think that out of these options, it's the best one. And then you're going to essentially have proficiencies in all armor and all weapons, which is a pretty good start for level 1. Natural Explorer, I would take Urban Tracker. Again, for the Sleight of Hand proficiency, this is going to help us with lockpicking and obviously with pickpocketing, which is going to be the main way in which we gain resources throughout our run. As for abilities, it might be a bit controversial, but none of it matters except dexterity for the most part. You would want to take Wisdom because that's the casting ability for monks, but overall I don't find it really important. You might as well just dump into dexterity, and the rest you could just spec however you want. What's most important is that you max out dexterity. And for skill proficiencies, you want to focus on Sleight of Hand and Stealth. As you level up, take these whenever you can get them. And after that, I would say Perception is the next most important. And after that, you might go with Insight. You might go with some of the dialogue option ones, or however you see fit. I tend to go with Athletics and Acrobatics just for the pushing, for the rare occasions when I actually want to push enemies and not get pushed myself. Now for level 2, we're going to stop with Ranger at the moment, and or actually, you know what? We're going to take level 2 and Ranger as well. We're going to take Hunter's Mark. This is a good use of a bonus action, and you could cast it every turn as long as your concentration isn't broken. So this is very, very, very effective. And it's a good use of your bonus action because if you don't really need your bonus action to teleport away, and you can actually walk away while invisible in unlit area, then you might as well just use your bonus action for Hunter's Mark. And I would take Long Strider because this does not cost spell slot, despite it saying that it is a level 1 spell slot. It does not cost any spell slots. You can cast it as much as you want, and you can cast it on your entire party. And this does give you 3 extra meters of movement, which movement is pretty important with this build. Fighting style, obviously we're going to take Archery. Now the next level, I wouldn't really take Gloomstalker. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to branch out and go into Rogue. We want to get Assassin as soon as possible, because Assassin, without Assassin, this build doesn't work, and I'm going to explain that in a second. So again, we're going to focus on Sleight of Hand and on Stealth. So here they're both up to 7. And yep, we're going to take all 3 levels in Rogue as soon as we can. These are also extremely useful, especially Disengage in case you mess up. Disengage as a bonus action is really useful because then you can disengage from an enemy, walk away, go invisible, walk some more, and they won't be able to find you. Now, level 3, we're going to take Assassin. And the reasons for this are for all of these 3 subclass features. We're going to always be on, mostly we're going to be on the first turn of combat, so the initiative part of it is going to be really important. We're always going to be able to play first. When we crit against surprised creatures, for some reason, either I don't really understand how to make the crits or how to make the surprise mechanic work, but apparently it randomly doesn't really surprise enemies, or some enemies are not able to be surprised. But regardless, as long as your enemies are surprised, which always is supposed to happen on the first round of combat, then you get critical hits on enemies, which means you can clear a group of enemies already on the first turn just by the mere fact that your every hit is a critical hit. And Assassin's Alacrity is the most important part and why we're actually speccing into Rogue in the first place. And that is, as soon as we trigger combat to start, we must get our action and our bonus action back, because we're going to be using our action to go invisible and our bonus action to teleport away. So without this Assassin's Alacrity, this entire build would not work. Again, this is useful because we will need our action and bonus action to be regenerated as soon as combat actually starts, because then we can fire at an enemy when outside of combat, but thus trigger combat, then use our extra attack, and use the Dread Ambusher extra attack. That gives us a bunch of attacks on the first turn of combat, so that we can then disengage from combat and restart the whole cycle over again. As soon as you're done with Assassin, I would actually leave Gloomstalker for last. So we would now start getting our monk levels. It's a bit unfortunate that most of these really amazing monk features we're not really going to be using much. Like Deflect Missiles is not really going to be relevant if you're invisible all the time, and all of those cheap bonus action stuff like disengaging with bonus action we already get from Rogue anyway, etc. So it's not really important, but there are a lot of really neat monk features just in general. So at 3rd level monk, we're going to take Way of the Shadows. This is going to be the main core of this whole build. And this Minor Illusion cantrip is going to be a bit helpful when we're going to pickpocket vendors. Now, as a feat, we're going to take Sharpshooter. This basically allows us to be a lot better with using bow. At monk level 5, we get both our extra attack and our invisibility. So hypothetically now, once we take level 5 in monk, which way you continue is optional. You can either go with Dread Ambusher now, if you don't want the Shadow Step, and you could just walk away instead, but I would recommend going all the way to level 6 with Monk, because the combination with Shadow Step is just insane. So we would finish up the Monk, and now we would finish our Ranger. As for spells, Enhanced Leap we don't really need. Speak with Animals might be situationally useful, but I would go with Fog Cloud, just because Fog Cloud enables you to cover your ass if you messed up and you need an area that enemies can't really see you in. We're going to go with Gloomstalker specifically because of the Dread Ambusher, which gives us an extra attack at the beginning of combat. So that's very, very useful in conjunction with Assassin. Now, Gloomstalker has his own invisibility, but if I'm not mistaken, this is only once per short rest or per long rest, so you can't really count on this. And this also requires you to be obscured, so this is basically an inferior version to the Monk invisibility ability that we're going to get. And Superior Dark Vision is nice, but it's not as useful. Replace spells we don't need to. And the build is done. Now I'm going to show you how you can pickpocket vendors that you wouldn't really think that you can. So as you can see, we have Roa here, and her inventory is really nice. But if I want to pickpocket her, I have to crouch. And if I do a hide, she's gonna pick it up. Why? Because there's too much people here looking in various directions, so you can't really hide in order to pickpocket. But what you can do is walk a little bit away. Look for a place where you can hide, such as here. Now you cast invisibility. Now you're still crouched and invisible. You can walk over to Roa. Enter turn-based combat. Now we can pickpocket her. And after you're done pickpocketing, let's see if we can find something that we can pickpocket. Okay, let's say this one. After we're done, we just shadow step away, walk a little bit away, and turn-based mode, and go invisible again. Now she's going to look around, not going to be able to find us. And it lasts for 10 turns, so just refresh your invisibility when she's not looking, and you should be good. And this should work for pretty much any vendor as long as you use the surroundings in a clever way. Yep, that's basically it. Have a good one, guys.